Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing another end of month wrap up, and this is obviously for July. So I managed to read quite a lot of different books. I had a lot of variety, including ebooks, samples, collective short stories. It seemed to be like a theme for throw everything at me world because I'm on it. So I'm really excited with the stuff I've got to share with you. So I think I'm going to start with the samples just so I remember, because I don't want to end up forgetting about them, because obviously with the samples I haven't actually written proper reviews for them, so they're not like written down properly. So the first sample I read in the month of July was something that I've been really excited to find out more about, and I can't wait for its release, and that is one of the new books, or the new series, from the myth master himself, Rick Riordan, or Riordan, however you pronounce it. He's my favourite author and I can't pronounce his name. And that is of course Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, Book 1, The Sword of Summer. So I'll put down the link to where I managed to find this. It's a short excerpt from the chapter 2. I thought it was a bit strange at first going in reading like randomly from chapter 2, but that was such a good place because you managed to learn quite a lot about Magnus just from that little short bit, so that was really cool. I foresee just another strong series coming from this awesome author. I can't wait for its release. I'm just so excited. The cover is absolutely stunning, and from just what I've read alone, just that little bit, I'm super pumped for it. I just cannot wait for its release. So the other sample I read is from I think he's a debut Australian author if I remember correctly, and this book is called Elpis by Aaron McGowan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It really grabbed my attention. It seems like a really interesting story. It's another fantasy book, but it's kind of centering around these gems, and they have like these certain powers or magics towards them. It just sounded really interesting from what I read. Again, I think that might have been a 2-chapter sample, so 2 whole chapters I managed to read, and it sounds like something that's right up my street. So if I can find a link for that, I will link it, but I think it was you had to follow him on Twitter and then he'd send you the link, but I'm pretty sure that link is just the regular preview on the Goodreads page of that book, if that makes sense. So yeah, I was really excited with that. It seems like a really good, and I think it's a self-promoted book as well, so just want to get the word out there about this awesome sounding book, Elpis. I think I'm going to talk about one of the last books I read first now as well, because I haven't got it to show you, and someone came to me on Instagram asking if I'd review it, and it's a really short book, really interesting, and this is called Blue Vanilla by Stuart Lee. So as I said, he came to me on Instagram just to ask if I would review it. His Instagram name is Emperor_Stu, all in capitals I believe. So this book is described, I've got it written down here, it's described as a book about mental health of modern day adolescents, and is portrayed in cartoons as well as stories told by many teens. So literally it's just a collection of different teenagers' accounts with their suffering with mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, just all of those kind of things, and how they have coped with it, or maybe are still coping with it. So I just thought that was a really interesting concept to get. Also, I think the author's quite young himself, so it's interesting seeing all that come from such a young mind, you know. I think something like this, it just opens up your mind, and I think pretty much, if not everyone, at least a lot of people can relate to it, whether it's you personally yourself, or if you've seen a loved one go through some sort of mental health illness. This just, it brings it home, and you can kind of see that it affects a lot of people out there, and we just need more awareness for that. I also love how either unedited or very little editing has been done to it. It's literally, the teenagers have written it and they've sent it in, and it's got all, like, everything that they've written, so it's literally purely coming from their thoughts, and I think it's a bit more touching when it's more raw like that, and kind of untouched, just collected together as such. I feel like the drawings brought in with the collections of these kids' like stories really emphasises and animates the issues. It kind of puts a picture on it, and although some of them are drawn quite comically, it's quite sad when you really look at it, you know, because these are drawings based off of real accounts. I would say they could look a little bit more professional. I know that's like the style the author's going for, but for a book that you want to sell, I think it could look just a little bit more polished, just a little bit more finished. But I really like the simplicity of the drawings themselves. It really just brings more emphasis than if it was proper detailed, you know. All of the accounts in this were really emotional. I really felt for all of those people suffering with it, especially because they're so young and they've been so brave to write this, and even if some of them have put it as anonymous, some of them have put them as their name, and it's just brave writing that, knowing that it's going to be for the world to see. And you know, my hat's off to them, you know, well done to them, and I hope they can get better soon, or you know, learn to live with it and control it, you know. So yeah, although it's written kind of lightweight, it does feel like a friend's telling it to you. You can still see the emotion behind it, so I definitely think that Blue Vanilla is a book you should try out. Again, the link's down below if you would like to read it. You can read it free or buy it, but you know, obviously I'd recommend buying it because you know, you want to help promote the author, because I think he's also another self-promoted author and he's quite young as well, so you know, best of luck to you. So now for the main bulk of the books that I read in July. So the first one is, sorry if I keep looking down by the way, I've got like my notes written. So the first one is Magic, an anthology of the historic and arcane by a multitude of authors. I know as I've been like showing you guys this book for a little while, I haven't really known what it was called, and I was saying it the wrong way around, and I was saying it's just by two authors, but it's a collection of short stories by many different authors. I won't read all their names because it's 15 stories, so I think there's 16 authors because one has 2 authors writing the book. But yeah, I really didn't know what this was going to be going into it. It was a library book, as with the second book I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I ended up loving this. I gave it 4 stars. I ended up on Goodreads going into each story and reviewing each specific one, so if you're interested in seeing what I felt for each book, and maybe you can get an idea of liking a particular author and just sampling their stuff, then go ahead and read my Goodreads review. Of course, as usual, my Goodreads profile is linked down below. Just search what I've read recently and you'll find it easy enough. But a lot of stories I did rate a 4 out of 5 and a 5 out of 5. I ended up really liking the collection. As I said, they all really broadened my reading horizons, so to speak, and they introduced me to new authors that I had never heard of before. I really liked the pretty chapter headings as well. They were so cute, and I think they went well with just the whole concept of the book. And I just think it's really interesting, a nice little sample of stories relating to magic, witchcraft, creepy things, you know. I think you should give it a go if you're interested in that sort of stuff. The second and last library book that I was going to tell you about is called The Way of the Weird by Brian Bates. I was pronouncing that as word before, but I looked it up and apparently it's pronounced weird, and even in the book it gives you a little bit of background to that word. If that made sense. I ended up giving this a 3 stars. I didn't know really as well what this was going to be about as well. I honestly just picked up them 2 books because they looked kind of cool, and I didn't give much looking into what they were about. But yeah, I did enjoy both of them. This one is about a Christian, what is it? He's not a monk. He's like a Christian person. I think he's also a scribe, and he's going into this other area, like this other place where they have more like a cult kind of religion, and he's trying to learn their ways but also spread the message of God, and he ends up becoming a really good friend with the wizard that's very acclaimed in that area. And it's like a story of 2 people from 2 different worlds becoming friends but also understanding each other and not really changing their opinions on the way the world is, if that makes sense. It's a really interesting story. The concept behind it was not fictional, it was based on facts about these 2 specific people, if I'm correct. It does have a little bit of background again in the book about that, so it's really interesting and made a very creative and unique plot. I did find it to be a slow read in the beginning, but I do think it's because I was distracted a little bit in the first few sections, and I didn't want that to hinder my experience, but it did slow it down a little bit for me. In terms of characters, the 2 main characters, Wat and Wolf. Wat is the Christian scribe and Wolf is the wizard. I liked Wolf a bit more, I think, but he was a tough character to figure out, and Wat was a bit whiny at times, but I did enjoy them. Their conversations together bordered a little bit scandalous for me. I thought something was going to happen, but it didn't. I don't know why. I felt like the way things were worded, it was like, oh, is there something going on? But no, nothing like that was going on. I didn't feel like the religion or spiritual aspects of this book was heavy, even though that's pretty much what it's about. But you know, it's not trying to change you in any way. It didn't feel like I was being preached at, but it was really interesting nevertheless. I have so much more written down in my Goodreads, so check that out. I'm pretty sure it's non-spoiler, so I don't really write spoilers, and if I do, it's hidden as a spoiler. So check that out again. I've got so much written on there and I don't have enough time to talk about them all. The next book I read, I've got a whole review waiting to go up, and I'll link that down below when that's aired, and that is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This is a collection of 5 short stories centering the woods and the creepiness about them, and it is a graphic novel. I gave it 3 stars, and as you'll see in the video that's to come, I'll explain a bit more about it, but overall I didn't find it as creepy as I was expecting. Just the way it was worded, I was figuring that it was going to be super scary, and it just wasn't, so it fell flat a little bit there for me, but I explain so much more in the video that you'll see soon if you decide to watch it. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I would read it again. It's just not exactly what I was expecting. I forgot to show you, that's Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. Something else I managed to finish was my official DSA theory test for car drivers, because I am taking my theory test soon, and I probably should go over this again, because I haven't looked at it for a little while, and my theory test is pretty soon. It's in August, so yeah, I should probably reread this, or go over some, take some little tests. But yeah, it took me forever to read because I was really pacing it out and just trying to go slow with it, because I didn't want to overwhelm myself, and I didn't know when I was booking my theory as well, so I was taking it slowly. It was really helpful with the images, the knowledge inside. It wasn't overwhelming as such. The little quizzes at the end of each topic were really helpful as well, and you can see the answers at the back. Really informative. Hopefully it helps me. I gave it 4 stars. What more can I say? Now I have another short collection of stories, and that is Across the Wall by Garth Nix. I have also got a review for this. I think it's ready and waiting to go up, so again I'll link that below when it is aired. This one is a collection of stories not featuring completely around the Old Kingdom. The first story in this is a short novella about the Old Kingdom, but about Anne Celestia, I always say that word wrong, focusing on Nick and him after the events of the Apportion. Really enjoyed that. Really ended up enjoying quite a lot of the stories in this, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think this is worth reading for any Garth Nix fan, or if you just like short stories in general, because it's not just fantasy in this, it's got loads of things. It's got realism, it's got what's it called, myth and legend. It's just got everything in it, but he still has that element of a little touch of fantasy and a little touch of science fiction, so really enjoyed this, 4 stars. The next one I've also got a review on, which is waiting to go up, and that is The Rat Queens by Curtis J. Wabe and Rock Up Church. So that is Volume 1, Sass and Sorcery. Just to say quickly, it wasn't as good as I was expecting. I ended up giving it 2 stars, and I was a little bit disappointed with the outcome because everyone's been raving about it and it just wasn't what I was expecting. Again, you'll hear more about this in the video that's to come. My brother also lent me 2 little books. He's recently moved back home and he was looking through his room and he was like, oh, do you want to read these? And the first one was Great Lies to Tell Small Kids by Andy Riley. And he's the author of The Bunny Suicides, so I ended up giving that 3 stars. The illustrations were so funny, the lies themselves were really funny, did pull some giggles out of me, but it's such a strange and random little book, but you know, something you could read, it's funny. Probably won't be telling any of those lies to my future kids though, maybe some of them. And of course I read The Return of the Bunny Suicides. I'm not sure if I've actually read The Bunny Suicides before. I think I might have, I'm not too sure, but this is just completely pictures, so just completely illustrations of gruesome, tragic bunnies committing suicides. Really sad concept, but quite funny nevertheless. I really loved the movie references as well. It had The Lord of the Rings, and there was another one but I can't remember, but yeah, it was really cute and really weird and really awesome. I think the cute illustrations also made it that more sadistic, so yeah, that was a good one, and I should definitely read the first one if I haven't already, so yeah, I gave that 4 stars. And lastly, I finally got to one of my read for review books, which I think was the one for June, it might have been. By the way, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, on Goodreads, I think there's probably loads of groups that do this, but the group I'm a part of is called The Book Was Better, and it's by a girl called Dana. She's the moderator, and she she does loads of other stuff on there, but there's this segment that I really like called Read for Review. So basically you ask for a copy from one of the books that are available that month, you read it and you review it. If there's enough time left in the month, you can request another one from that month, and so on and so forth, but you can't request a book until you've provided the link for that review. You know, it's just fair, it works both ways. You're getting something, the author's getting something, and people that might be interested in buying the book are getting something. So yeah, the book that I got is called Arranger's Tale by Misty Parker. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I'm really shocked about that, because as I first began reading it, I wasn't as into it as I wanted to be. It was just okay, and for the longest time I was just set on giving it maybe a 3, 2.5 stars, but the ending is what definitely tied it together for me. That definitely boosted it up to that 4 stars. It's a fantasy book, and it's about this high elf wanting to break the mould, wanting to disobey what her strict father said and just go out and become a ranger and do something for herself, you know, actually work for a living rather than be waited on and marry someone she doesn't even like and have to become this ultimate wizard. She doesn't want any of that. She just wants a nice life where she can provide for herself. And it basically follows her and the people that she encounters, and it's really, really awesome. The protagonist, who's called Califani, which is a weird name, she is definitely a headstrong individual. She annoyed me at times, but I think I liked her overall. She said a really, really cool statement, which was, it could have been a masquerade ball with all the masks they wore, pasted on smiles and haughty turned up chins hid nasty inner demons. And I think that just summed up how much she hated this planned existence, how much everyone was just the same, but they were hiding stuff, you know. They weren't the ultimate perfection that they were displaying, they were something darker beneath, most likely. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll just quickly mention a few of the good points and a few of the bad points. Of course, I've got a really detailed review on Goodreads that they're not spoilery at all. So some of the good points were that even though the plot twist was a little bit predictable, I thought the story was kind of predictable, so I guess that's a bad point. The good point is that I devoured every word. It was one of those stories that was written in a way that made it almost addicting, that's kind of not healthy for you, almost the kind of infatuation I had with the Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. It was that, but on a lesser level. I also found that the ending was beautiful, and it definitely left me with some closure. I kind of saw a little span of all the characters in little ways and kind of know how they're left. So yeah, and just 2 of the bad points I've already mentioned. It was a predictable story, and also I couldn't imagine the setting very well. Even though there was a lot of description and a lot of well written bits, I couldn't imagine the landscape. I couldn't imagine quite a lot of what was going on, so that was a bit strange. But yeah, I ended up giving it 4 stars. Definitely check out my review for more information. And I'm just going to add a Friday reads, currently reading thing. I've never done a Friday reads before, but it's Friday now, so hopefully I get this up before Friday. And I think what it is basically what you plan to read for the weekend. I might be entirely wrong, I haven't really looked much into it. But so yeah, what I'm currently reading and planning to continue for the weekend, I don't think I'm going to pick anything new up, is The Complete Illustrated Stories of Hans Christian Andersen, edited by someone or another. I don't know who it's edited by. Let's have a look. Translated by H.W. Dalkin. Chancellor's Press copy. This was beautifully found in the shop my boyfriend used to work in. It was the Salvation Army. It's another collection of short stories. I told you that's kind of like my theme going on, and other little bits and bobs. But yeah, really, really enjoying this. I'm probably about, gonna say, about a 1/4 of the way in. Really, really enjoying the stories. They've got some popular ones like The Princess and the Pea, Thumbelina, The Hardy Tin Soldier. I think they have The Little Mermaid too, but it's called something different. It's called The Little Sea Maid, but I think that's Little Mermaid. And yeah, sorry if I was a bit funny in this video, talking a bit fast or a bit quiet. I just had a lot of books to show you, and there's people walking up and down. So yeah, I'm going to leave that here, and thanks for watching. Bye!